This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.
I am going to go ahead and call the April 22nd meeting of the Beast Committee to look at this meeting. Oh, Jamie wants in. Sympathetically, Jamie. There he is. There he is. You hear us?
Yep. How are you?
There was some amazing snow you had on your screen.
What's that?
There was some amazing snow you had on your screen there. It's great.
Oh, is that my still shot? Yeah, that's pretty old.
We're good. Okay. So
Yeah.
sorry if you can't hear us. I guess you can yell at us to speak up if you can't.
Yep, all good so far. Hopefully y'all can hear me. My computer's been a little wonky here, but sorry I have to be remote.
Oh well. Okay. So calling meeting to order and getting the agenda up here. Jamie, feel free to, I guess you won't wait. Somebody help me keep an eye for anybody else joining. Okay, yeah. Okay, we have a kind of packed agenda. I don't honestly know if we're going to get through everything. But first and foremost, we have the public members here that are not on the agenda. Did you have any interest in talking to us?
Sure. I mean, I just want to get involved.
Cool. Okay.
So, my name's Julie Slavitt, and I live at 14 Nichols Way, which is a new street, up off Loudville Road. And we moved here in the middle of February from Philadelphia.
Thanks. Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you. Very happy to be here.
All right. You folks are on the agenda, so we'll get to that. And nobody out there. So great. Okay. Approval of minutes. Everybody see the attached minutes? Great. Do we have any moves to do something like, I don't know, approve said attached minutes? So moved. No move. And second. Moved and seconded to approve last time's minutes. All in favor? Ayes and hands.
Aye.
Great. And all those, there are none. Great. Okay. And now I will turn it over to Sophie and Angela.
All right.
And we'll talk about the
I've spoken with you guys both separately. I think that you sort of both have the up-to-date information, kind of split between the two of you. I can provide a little bit of background, make sure we're on the same page, and then you're welcome to join in, introduce yourselves. So as of right now, we are looking at 3 potential plots behind Eastworks. I can't remember if I had visited them the last time we met, but I had sent out a doc, at least to Sean, that had the pictures of the potential locations. I'm thinking that one of them is going to work better, but it might be helpful to head out there at some point, just to take a look at it. Like if you have a half hour on the weekend or during the week, I can make time for sure. Let's see, what else did we chat about? The potential grant opportunities. There's a $500 grant through this Keep Massachusetts Beautiful organization. It's $500 available to anyone, even if you're not affiliated with the organization. I did look into becoming an official chapter of Keep Massachusetts Beautiful, because you'd access up to $2,500, as well as their sort of resources and their marketing materials and things like that. So it's something I'm looking into. It seems like it's a bit of a process and I really would hate to add more things to everyone's plate if it's not necessary and it's not going to benefit us where we need it to or when we need it to. But I'd be happy to send over some of the notes that I typed up about the organization, and if anyone's interested, we can pursue it further. So I think that that's it. Otherwise, Jenny had sent a potential grant that I did look into. It does not seem applicable for this project.
I finally looked at it too.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh man.
I started taking notes and I was like, oh, it's for multiple programs, like not just one isolated garden. You have to have like a rollout of like multiple gardens over the course of however long. So that one's probably not applicable, but you know, anything that anyone comes across, I'd be glad to take a look at it. This $500 one is the only one that I've actually identified and started working on. It's due July 31st. And I think I might have sent Sean my sort of draft of it. I have a good kind of base. Where I'm lacking is potentially specific recommendations for what plants and also the amount of space, which is something we'll have to determine when we go take a look at it, how much room we actually have.
Or not only have, but maybe want to take up depending
Right,
on what,
exactly.
if we think we can get the grant and we want to have
Yep.
like a sort of target, plants per foot or something
Yep.
like that, then we can start with smaller and then build the fence out from there. If
Right.
we, so that way it's not just like lots of mulch with a few plants in between.
Exactly. Yeah, for sure. So there's that. And then speaking of funding opportunities, so I was kind of playing around with the idea of using cultural chaos as a mode for fundraising. We had talked about potentially selling butterfly houses that the Girl Scouts would make. But we were also kind of thinking about a naming raffle, which I mentioned to you in the planning group meeting, where maybe people could enter, buying a raffle ticket, and then they could sort of pay for the chance to work with us to name the garden. Alternatively, Connie Dawson, who's also in the eco planning group, had mentioned the potential for people to pay to dedicate a cinder block or a stake or a rock or something in the garden. So that way everyone that pays into it gets a connection to it. I was thinking potentially, because Pasqualina had mentioned that a lot of the booths at Cultural Chaos have an artistic element where the public can come and like kind of do something artistic at all the booths. And I was kind of playing with the idea of like decorating a rock or something, but wanted to kind of get everyone's opinion on whether or not that would be safe, I guess. If we had like paint pens and paints, like would that be an issue if it rained, if it snowed, to kind of like get into the soil? I mean, we could put them around, we could try to separate it, or we could just think of something completely different for an activity. But that's kind of, I think, the next steps after we look at the garden, we can start thinking about specifically what we want to do with cultural chaos surrounding it. So
Okay. Yep. When is Cultural Chaos again? That's like
the 14th of
14th
June.
June. Okay.
So we have a little bit of time.
Right.
Um,
Jenny, do you think we have, timing considerations on when will be best to plant, or is pretty much any time in the summer gonna be good enough?
Honestly, without having a great sense of the site, I would think that in some ways the earlier is either earlier or be looking at a fall planting.
Mhm.
What we probably want to avoid is planting in the heat of summer, especially if we don't have
Right.
dedicated trees.
okay.
If we aim for a fall planting, does that have any effect on our ability to get plants?
I don't think so. I would actually think that improves our ability to get plants
Okay.
and maybe even at a discount.
Awesome.
Nice. I believe this is the call I have to take, so if somebody else want to take over the meeting for me?
Well, I would love if Angela could get to kind of chat with you guys a little bit and introduce herself. We've been chatting about this as well, and I'm sure she has some things to add, so.
Sure. Thank you so much. I'm Angela Park and I live in Easthampton. We have a Girl Scout troop here in Easthampton, based in Easthampton. We do have girls from multiple surrounding towns, but many are from Easthampton as well. We have girls ranging from kindergarten through 7th grade, and the older girls, the cadets, which are 6th, 7th, and 8th graders, have committed to working on their Silver Award project. And so the Gold Award is essentially equivalent to like an Eagle Scout. And the Silver Award is the next level down. When they move up to the next level, they can work on gold. They are working on silver. What that entails are essentially 3 things. One, it has to be a project that is sustainable or has a continuous kind of way of giving back. 2, it has to relate to your local community and engage the community so that they get involved in some way. And 3, they have to commit to working 50 hours over the course of their project, volunteering in any way, including planning. So something like this meeting would count towards an hour of their service towards their project. And so we had a meeting a couple of months ago where they brainstormed some ideas. They decided to work on the pollinator project. And then the first step is to do what's called a take action, which is understanding and observing the environment and kind of figuring out a way using the scientific method to solve a problem, to think about a problem. So their observation was there are less pollinators, in particular monarch butterflies. And they said, if we increase plants that those pollinators are attracted to, we can increase the pollinator population. So that was their thought. So you guys want to introduce yourselves? No, I will. No. Ruthie, and this is Penny, and Ruthie's in 6th grade, Penny's in 7th grade, and they've both been in the troop since they were kindergartners. So they're seasoned Girl Scouts and have a lot of experience doing community project work or community service work, but really only in like the one-off kind of mode. So this is a new experience for them.
Thank you. Fantastic. We're excited to have you guys working on this. We appreciate that this is something that you're, interested in doing as well. So yeah, well, thank you.
Yeah. And I think, it'll be great in moving forward. I'm going to have you guys work directly with the girls.
Yeah.
They will need like an official mentor. So I don't know if it can be the entire committee or if someone in particular would want to be that person who will help track their hours, who will help guide them in the work and stuff like that. So, and it can't be me. So it's got to be someone else.
Sure. That's something I would definitely take on. Yeah, especially if a lot of this stuff, there's certain rules about like if stuff, hours I can work and everything. But I also trying to be mindful of like your school hours and everything like that. So maybe trying to find a
summer might be a little bit more flexible.
Perfect. Yeah. Awesome. Sounds great.
Thank you.
What did I miss?
Chatting about sort of what the Girl Scouts project is going to look like, the requirements for getting their silver award. Yeah. And kind of what motivated them to want to work on this particular project. So
Something I saw that could be good for this or other things is Native Plant Trust will do custom plug orders, like kind of in bulk. So that might be something for this garden or other gardens that we might look into.
yeah, for sure.
I just noticed that when I was making my plant list this weekend. Okay, so we will need to take who here thinks that they want to go check out different plots and who here thinks they don't want to go check out. Okay, so Jenny and I will go look, Sophie will go look.
I'd like to tag along.
Absolutely.
If it
We
fits.
may have to either go separately or in. We either need to make a meeting out of it or we'll have to go separately because of the meeting law. So yeah, I would say we can talk amongst ourselves. Just let me know if you don't plan to go look at it. So that I'm not waiting on like opinions or anything. So we're not waiting on.
Can you all take pictures or something to share at the next meeting if we can't all be there?
Yeah, Sophie already took a few. They're
I
pretty
took a few.
from one angle. It's kind of hard.
It's hard
to get a
tell.
sense of the space. They're over along between the mill pond and the Eastworks mills and stuff.
I was
So
gonna
right
say, I'm
off the
also
bike path.
happy to just wander myself and
Yeah,
just
yeah.
take a look at
Um,
any time.
Do you think we could get like a couple of flags and just like stick
Mm-hmm.
them
Sure.
around and
Yeah,
be like, this is where it's at?
Yeah, okay,
Here,
perfect.
the DPW.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we can definitely, I think we should probably make a decision for sure next meeting about which one we go for because we don't want to leave it to sit too long. Sorry for all the process of city stuff. Yeah. And then, yeah, we'll have when will that grant, sorry for not remembering off the top of my head, when will that grant be decided?
It's not due until July 31st.
Okay,
So
not
we have,
due until July 31st. Okay.
yeah.
I'm just thinking about like, I mean, so it sounds like we're probably aiming for fall planting.
And that's, I think what I had drafted in the grant is a fall kind of implementation.
Is that all right with you guys, or would you?
That's great, actually, because that'll give them some time to do the cultural chaos and other potential fundraising and community building around it.
Awesome. Okay,
Great.
good. Very cool. Great. Well, that sounds like it's all lining up nicely.
Sorry, I'm excited about these sites. What's a good way to like communicate what the locations are? Do we have like a map? Do we have like a GPS point? How do we want to do this? Or I guess the flags and just like walk along the bike path until you see a flag.
Yeah, it would be good though. So I had
Information
sent
would be-
the pictures to Sean and he
Yeah.
had recognized one of the locations
Okay.
as the area that you guys had, I think, done some invasive plant removal at.
Oh yeah, I think there was one. Yeah.
Yeah, and so that's the end. And then the other two are a couple yards down from that. So
Yeah.
So they're all kind of by.
they're
the
all
feed
kind of,
store.
right,
Yeah,
they're all kind of
okay.
nearby.
Not the one with a walking, there's one that's a walking path around it.
There's-
Yes,
Okay.
one of them doesn't.
Yeah, one of them's in the area that we've been doing invasive removal behind the feed store where they just put in a bunch of trees. Oh, I have a side note that I want to talk to you about.
Okay.
Regardless of whether it's in the meeting.
Sure.
And then one of them is by one of those little swale ponds. Right. Like I think it's the one right next to the tree that's closest to the path in the picture.
That sounds about right, yeah.
Yeah. And then there's one other one. We do need to be aware, although if we're doing this in the fall, it won't be an issue, that the Manhan is doing a lot of work on the Manhan
Mhm.
this summer. We certainly wouldn't want to do this before they do that because heavy equipment has
Yep,
a bad
right.
habit of running over things.
Mhm.
And
Yes.
they,
Yeah, that is a good question. So is the idea that this is gonna be like a sort of a garden, a native plant garden that people can come and look at to figure out what stuff looks like? And if they want to plant it, like a model pilot, something like that?
Yeah,
that idea.
I mean, there's definitely room to play around with it. I don't think we have anything like super set in stone. The sort of orientation of it was towards pollinators and native plantings. But that's definitely a component that we can look into. So I think it's more of like is demonstration garden the right word for it?
That's the word I'm
To show people sort of
searching
what,
for.
yes, correct signage for having a pollinator space sort of in your yard, and it can like maybe mirror something that someone else might be able to do in their own yard, maybe.
It's wonderful.
So,
and there are potentially options we could talk about for like, you know, even if we do a bare minimum sort of printed sign with a little bit of plastic on it with the QR code that goes to a
Yeah,
Google Doc,
right.
like literally the
Yeah.
lowest
Mhm.
cost version of something we could do for that, we could do that. And then also have, you know, plant labels are pretty cheap. So we could have
Mhm.
plant labels on everything so folks could see what they are.
Yeah.
I'm happy to wax poetic for y'all about
Mhm.
why native plants are nicer than pollinated.
And
Anytime
the
you want.
fall, I was just gonna say the fall is so much better for planting. So I don't know what I mean, is it okay if I'm new?
I mean, normally we,
Is the public not supposed to speak?
yeah, it's kind of the public speak time. It's kind of the,
Okay.
I mean, we're
I'll
not
keep a list.
hardcore about it.
sorry, I
Does
didn't
it-
know how that
no, no,
works.
I don't, Connie could probably tell we're all figuring
I
it
mean,
out.
yeah, I mean, technically, you're not supposed to by Robert's rules, but you're the chair, so you get to decide what you want to do.
Absolute power.
Or is it committee, you can
Yeah.
suspend the rules, right? Like,
It's
up to
We
you.
do have a lot of stuff on the agenda tonight,
Yes.
so I'm gonna try and keep us moving, but I would have, feel free to email me. You can make sure we grab my email address.
And what's your name?
Sean. Got it. Is there? Okay, so we are definitely going to talk next time, make some decisions. We'll also be a little bit further along with like deciding what to do with cultural chaos. Does
Mhm.
anybody wanna work with Sophie in order to sort of have a planning group for cultural chaos type stuff, whether or not we want to try and do a job, or do we want to just like let Sophie and Angela work on that and come back to us? I'm fine with either. Folks have
Did we
thoughts?
want a table for the bees committee or have somebody there to at least explain who we are?
Yes, I think we're probably going to be joint tabling with
Yeah,
some of the other
okay.
folks, again, also through the climate action group.
Yes.
What are we calling ourselves for that?
Eco
Eco,
initiative.
the Eco Initiative. So we will be there as part of the Eco Initiative as
Got it.
well, so we will already have space. And
Okay.
this will be,
Okay.
you know, a big part of what this will be a part of what we're doing while we're there. If that satisfies all and sundry. Great.
And I think that in terms of volunteers for the event, Angela had mentioned rotating some of the cadets for like a couple hours at a time to sort of sit together. I'm planning on being there the whole day.
That'd be
So,
great.
Yeah, I will probably be there the majority of the day.
okay.
Okay, I was gonna say, if you need extra help,
Please.
bees committee, I'm
Yeah.
happy to. join.
Anybody who wants to be there is always.
Okay, perfect, okay.
I mean, so we can even, I want to say another Connie who's also on the energy committee, when we were doing stuff with the energy committee last year, was like out in the middle of the street, like flagging people down, like blocking people, talking to them. Like she was really, really, really great about getting out there and communicating. So I aspire to some or all of us also getting to that point. So yeah, so please.
Okay, sounds great.
And if you bring your extroversion A game, even better. I don't have an
I'll do my best.
yeah, I don't have an extroversion A game.
I think we're seeing your extroversion A game right now.
This is as good as it gets, folks. Okay. So anything else that folks want to talk about with this at this time, or are we pretty much ready for doing a little bit more discovery and coming back?
Yeah. I think that's all updates I have.
Okay. Great. Connie, we have a Kathy Harrington recession proof gardening.
Yes, she is trying to get here. She might zoom in or she's gonna try to come. She thought the meeting was at 7. So
Sorry about that.
so she is trying to get here for 6:30. So I think she's rearranging a couple things. So
Okay.
when she pops in,
We
she can.
will come back around.
Mhm.
All right, so only update on the next item unless Hannah's heard something else. So the next item is the Pest Comic Trust Invasive Removal Program, which we want to work with them on. Jamie sent an email to connect me to the folks there that are running that, and I haven't heard back from them, so I actually need to reach out, and I haven't, and I apologize.
Oh, I meant to ask you if she had responded to that.
Did not, and I have been
haven't
meaning
seen,
to
yeah.
take the initiative on that, and I have not yet, so my bad.
No sweat. I mean, I figured it wouldn't be such a big deal for them to get back to us, but because I've since received another message or two from them just about their general goings on.
Okay.
So it could try again, or if you want, I guess if you want to
I'll just pursue it.
Okay.
I just haven't, I didn't remember, to be honest. With the phone
Yeah,
call.
no, it's understood.
Be very up soon, so hopefully I'll have more green space soon.
Okay. I will say, hold on, I'm just gonna open up their most recent email. This is from, they had a meetup over the weekend. Last weekend they were doing some plant sale preparation for their thing, but I don't know if they have any other public events, or you could send you to meet up with them directly if they don't respond. So
Okay.
anyway.
If you do hear about any public events that it sounds like it might be kind of a meet and greet situation, let me know.
Okay.
We'll certainly try.
Yeah, they have a monthly meeting too. I have to look up when it is, but I could certainly send you info on that if you wanted to try to pop in at one point.
Yeah, that sounds good. Or send it to me and Hal, because it sounds like
Will do.
it sounds like he might also be interested.
Yeah, I'd be interested, at oh, forgive me, their president's suggestion, I checked out the planters at Mutter's Field,
Mm-hmm.
which would be, they'd be interested in working with some group to pen those and plant them.
Mhm.
I haven't pursued that actively, mostly because I got a little locked up on public meeting law and how many people can I talk to at once. And then the other thing, it does seem in my mind that it would overlap and duplicate what we're trying to set up with you and the Girl Scouts. So as we move forward, I think what we should do, I mean, the two planters are big stone planters, area that could be planted 13 feet by 5 feet times 2. So it would not be a big effort to, sort of hand till it and plant things if we do it, if we had the resources and the plans to do so. But again, it would be almost in my mind 100% duplicative of what we're discussing with you. So, I think this is something for us to seed and allow to ferment and allow to develop. And again, in terms of working with PCT, I mean, I think we'd have an obligation of going to them saying, okay, what are we suggesting? What's our proposal? What is our ask? And I don't think we have any of that, fleshed out in the least at this point. So, there would be several steps that we would need to do to approach this responsibly. But that said, I think working with PCT, they would be a very good partner.
Yeah.
Because they're very interested in the same mission as we are.
Yeah, absolutely. And they have a more established base and maybe some understanding of some of the stuff we haven't quite got a handle on here.
Right.
Okay.
I will just comment as like an additional lead on that. I ran into Bill Cannon, who's the local landscape architect who designed those planters in the first place recently.
Oh, really?
Who's super friendly and interested in seeing that be rejuvenated as well. So as one starting point, I bet we could get the original plans from him just to see, just kind of as a starting point and see if we wanted to just kind of recreate that or tinker with it and go from there. So that's just one lead. I'm moving forward with that plan.
Did you learn from him when those planters were put in? Because to my casual inspection, I would guess they've been there for 2 or 3 decades.
I didn't ask, but
Yeah,
I'm happy
but
to follow up. The signs look fresher than that, but I don't know about
the signage
plants.
around
Yeah,
is definitely fresh,
yeah.
but the planters themselves, I mean, it's old weathered stone.
Mhm. Yeah, I don't know.
It's a curiosity question.
Definitely.
By the way, if anybody feels like doing some early volunteering before we get to your project, we'll have space. Okay. So we are going to be continuing to reach out to them on both those fronts and letting ideas sprout about ways in which that might dovetail with the Girl Scouts initiative. Okay, and next up is Earth Day Climate Action Plan Series, which Sophia will let you talk to.
Sure, yeah. So today, since it was Earth Day, it was the official kickoff for the Easthampton Climate Outreach Initiative. And our first official event, aside from the flag raising and thank you, the proclamation that Connie read this morning, is the Arbor Day tree giveaway, which is this Saturday from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. or while supplies last. I can't imagine we give away more than 100 trees in 3 hours, but that would be fantastic. And I also have prepared some educational materials and a QR code people can go to that specifically directs them towards information about planting for drought resilience and things like that. So that's the first event. I believe Connie Dawson is going to table at that event with me. I really only think I'd need one other person there, so that should be fine in terms of volunteering. The next event that we have confirmed is this composting tutorial with this company, Banana Compost. They're coming to a farmer's market on July 20th. And I believe we're also going to have some compost barrels available for purchase there. So they can do the demonstration, buy some food, and then buy the barrel for compost food. So that's another event. And then we have a new event called Art in the Garden, which is Pasqualina's sort of creation, which is an event that will pair local home gardens with art. And the artists will set up sort of like a gallery in a couple of home gardens. And we're going to create a map that kind of directs people. It's all going to be within the Cottage Street Cultural District, so it's going to be in walking distance to each other. I might need some volunteers for that. It's from 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. on June 7th, which is a Saturday. So it's not a super long event, but it might be helpful just to have, I'm going to be stationed at one of the homes. The conservation agent Ava is going to be stationed at one of the homes, and Pasqualina will be kind of like bopping around from house to house. But maybe to have people in shifts, or at least from the 2 to 5 period, would be fantastic, just to kind of like answer some questions and promote kind of the pollinator action plan and native plantings and stuff like that would be great.
Mhm.
So I can get you guys more information on that. And we also have if you know anyone, or if yourselves have gardens that you'd like to potentially apply, we have a form for people to submit their own garden, with a little bit of information about what's going to be blooming in June and everything. So I can send that to you as well.
I've tentatively signed up my garden with Ava.
Oh, awesome.
You know, it's not in bloom yet. My garden is chlorophyll chaos. So there's a lot of stuff, a lot of pollinators
That's
there,
awesome.
but
Yeah.
can I identify them? No. So I will be hopefully participating.
Awesome.
I'm
That's exciting.
good on the biology. I'm not so good on the art.
Okay.
So yeah.
There will be an artist there who can answer those questions.
Oh,
so.
okay, great. So we can team up, but
Yes.
I'm signed up to be a constructive partner.
Awesome. Thank you. That's
Your
very
homework is
exciting.
Great, I think.
And it's going to be sort of a smaller pilot event. We would love
Yep.
for it to be a much bigger thing, in future years, but this was kind of just sort of piggybacking off of Art Walk, is to
Mhm.
include sort of the gardens
That's so
with it too.
fun.
So it's going to be
Such a
really fun. And if you want to sign up just to attend the event, we're going to send, the maps out via email and everything, so I can send those forms to you guys as well. So,
I could probably help out with
Awesome.
that. I'm getting back on the 5th, but I think I can.
cool. Awesome. I'll be in touch then.
Yeah, I have to check my schedule. I might be able to,
Okay.
but that date is not, and my brain is like, do you have something?
Okay. I don't
Let
need to
you
know
know.
right now. It's we have some time. It could potentially be an opportunity for the Girl Scouts because it's pollinator related. So we can work that out too and see if there's, shifts that they can take or whatever. So yeah, those are all the kind of new events as of right now. But the calendar will be updated on the website, and then I have a newsletter with some people that signed up today at the Earth Day thing. So
I might try and swing by and grab some of the materials that you have in your keeping to go hang out with. I like the tree giveaway.
You mean some of the handouts we have
Yeah.
here tonight?
Mhm.
Sure. You're welcome to anything I have left, but we should count up what I have left and then figure out how to make it.
Yeah.
Do we have the QR code? That, was it Ellie? from the library had?
They might have it, and I'm sure they would be able to like provide us with a
Yeah.
copy.
Yeah.
Might be helpful. There's some great documents on there too.
Thanks. Oh, because that's the Google Drive.
Yes,
Yeah, we could either do that one or we could probably make our own on the city. Well, maybe we can make our own on the city drive. I have no idea what their permissions are gonna do to us. So
Anyways, what I've got is available and I'll chip in and Xeroxing more.
sure.
cool.
Great. And I can probably make Saturday, depending on whether other things go.
Okay,
If I can't, where's it at again?
The Arbor Day thing,
Yeah.
or it's at Big E's.
Oh, it is a big easy. Yeah, so that's really easy for me because I'm a
Okay.
block away.
Perfect.
So if I'm in town, I will.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
I'll swing by
sounds
and try
good.
and help out. Okay, great. Jenny, would you like to give us an after action on the co-working event?
I'd love to. I think about 80% of the committee was there, so this will be familiar to many. Yes, so last Wednesday we held our Plan Your Garden event in collaboration with the library at the new library annex. I think it was pretty successful. I actually didn't do like a head count or a specific sign up, but we had at least 10 people attend, I would say, which was right in line with the person who we were working with at the library, Ellie. Her assessment is that like 10 is a pretty good turnout for a library event. So I think we can be pretty happy with that. We had a lot of good conversations, made some good connections, offered some resources. So all in all, I think it was a pretty successful event. As I was commenting before the meeting started, I think there are things that I was imagining might be even bigger and better about it. And I think part of it is that somehow our communication about the event didn't like quite get across what we were trying to accomplish. In that it was an unstructured, like no format, no like, there wasn't a workshop, there wasn't a lecture, there wasn't a speaker. It was just kind of a show up, do your thing, plan your garden if you want to kind of event. And I think people may have been a little disappointed that there wasn't a presentation of some kind. Sean, what do you have to say?
Yeah, all I was gonna say is people reacted to it about the way I would have expected them to react to it, because I don't think folks think about gardens as so much as being planned if they're going to do it themselves. Like, I think that's kind of a step that people aren't familiar with in my experience. So I think if you want them to actually do that planning part, you are going to have to like show them and teach them how to do it, which I think there'd be an appetite for a lot. And, just like maybe even potentially give people like a practice space or something where we give some pictures of a dead yard that they can like, and then a basic graph or something.
Maybe more like a, what is landscape design workshop?
Yeah. Anything that's all grass. But I mean, if that might inspire, or maybe have a few example plans up, something to like inspire folks to actually do the planning. Like, I think folks did a great job just like talking and jabbering and wanting to hang out with other people that were thinking about gardens. But if we want to, I think that's going to be a little bit of a lead them to the planning water situation. And obviously they still may not drink, but we actually lead them.
Yeah, I'll say as a person who was not able to attend, and who has too much grass that I'd like to replace, but don't know really the first place to start because I'd have a lot less experience than a lot of you all at the table there. Something like that helps me get to that point, that helps me even think around what my options are and like what I could do and like what could be done. Here's the easy bucket, here's your medium hard bucket, here's your difficult bucket sort of thing. Like that would be really useful for someone like me.
So maybe what we could do next time, if we can arrange it so that you're there, is we can use your place as a demo workshop. Just to kind of walk through like the easy option, the edge option, the kind of full option, the over the ears. Yeah, I mean, I'm half kidding, but I'm kidding on the square. Like if you guys were interested in doing that, I think that would actually be a decent way to do it.
Yeah, a little more seriously, and I've done this halfway at home. I can reconstruct what I did to tear out my front yard
That's another good
and
idea.
put a garden in. I mean, okay, and this is how much money I spent, and this is about how much time I did.
Could you present before and afters? Do you have any pictures?
I have pictures, sure.
Before and after type stuff?
Yeah.
So that'd be
Yeah,
great.
and in some ways it looked better before than it did after. But,
I've seen your yard. I don't think that's true.
yeah,
That's great.
but
Could we do it as like a case study that we could put like on the bees page as well or something,
Yeah, it's a good idea.
what was the idea?
To do it as like a case study where you could put something up on the bees website as like a, here's an example.
And, I mean, I went at this with a modicum of planning, thinking about, how tall things were going to be and whatever, and put them where. And one of the things I've learned is plants don't stay where you put them. And so despite best intentions, the result is chaotic. So, and as long as that's okay.
Yeah.
So anyways, I can provide stuff like that and people can laugh.
And this is assuming that y'all want to do another one of these at some point, but
I think this would all be really great events. Absolutely.
And what a great space that was too, to have an event.
oh yeah, that was, absolutely agreed with that. I love that space. And it will only get better.
Yeah, fantastic. So I guess I wanted to ask if folks had other comments or reflections about the event, who were there, if there's anything else that you wanted to highlight.
Thought it was also just fun to hear the excitement that people have about plants and gardens, and it was fun to hear people share what they planted and what would have been some of their favorite things or challenges or, yeah, I thought there was good like you said, good conversation that happened, that I thought it was a good first step into like just a come and hang out together and do some planning.
Mhm. Yeah, it made me wonder if, like, I think a lot of the ideas that we've been mentioning about more of a structured workshop or presentation, like, I think those are all great ideas. I think we should definitely think about planning stuff like that. It also made me wonder if just like having kind of a social space is worthwhile in itself.
Garden tea parties.
Exactly, right, because like,
Mhm,
right,
mhm.
if it's not necessarily like I think this tried to be like the midpoint between an unstructured social space and a formal presentation or workshop, and it just like didn't quite gel, but I think there's merit in both of those ends of the spectrum.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, I think we live in a curious time. And I think that people are looking for ways to be able to do something.
mhm.
And this is and they're also looking for community and
Mhm.
they're looking for connection. And so I think this is a really easy kind of, it's not a huge stretch, but it's something that I can feel like I'm actually contributing and I'm doing something. And so I think that this is a great way for this group, right, to be able to contribute to that planning,
Mhm.
right? And so,
And that is what it felt like, a good like community, like chat.
Yeah.
Bond over, what's going well in your yard or, and that it was some great conversation. Not a lot of garden planning, but great conversation around plants and pollinators and our community and.
It's really valuable. Well, what that makes me wonder is now that it's getting warmer, I wonder if like literally thinking about like a garden tea party is kind of the way to go. Like
Again,
if somebody's like a host, take a look at what somebody's done. I think a lot of these are overlapping a little bit in great ways.
Yeah, I mean, and having like a rotational series, and something that just popped into my head as I think about whether or not I'd be embarrassed with my yard or not. But like I think it would be somewhat good to show people stuff that is not, not necessarily as paying a professional and see if they like it or whatever, because like, it does not, things don't have to be perfect. People have this idea about like a garden is like this canvas where they're going to put down the paint and then it's going to be exactly what they wanted. But to Hal's point, especially if you're planting natives, stuff ain't going to stay where you put it anyway. So like there's a large element of, sort of like helping people learn to appreciate that what you're doing is helping nature do its own thing.
The learning.
The pollinators love chaos.
Absolutely. And one other thought I had, Jenny, is it might be a good idea to do sorry, this was not usually on, and I need to go that in a minute. Might be a good idea to do like a feedback form.
Yeah.
So because like if people just and that's for all events that we do, and like when we get down to like invasive removal stuff a little bit later, and any other event that we have, regardless of what it is, I think we should just be in the habit of doing a feedback form where we can. Cool.
That kind of reminds me, I agree, and that reminds me of one of the things that I was not struggling with, but that was different about this event than previous ones, is that there wasn't a registration or a sign up in advance. So we didn't know how many people to expect. And I kind of wonder if having a registration form maybe makes people a little bit more invested in the event itself, a little bit more likely to show up. And then that would give us the ability to send out a feedback form afterwards rather than having something physical at the event. So I might want to come back to that for future events.
It's kind of like if you signed up for something, then you feel obligated to actually show up for something that you signed up for.
Well, and potential counterpoint is that we would probably want to make it clear that the registration was not 100% required or something like that.
Sure.
Because I think it also can provide like if somebody wants to go but they forget to register and then they're looking at it on their calendar and they're like, oh shoot, I forgot to register. Now I can't. Now I can't even try.
Right. Yeah.
So I would be a little bit concerned about. Yeah, registration requested or RSVP requested but not required.
I think that's very doable. especially like, I think it would be nice to offer like snacks or something.
Right.
And that would help give us an idea of what to expect.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think this is all just like every time we do it, we learn so much
Yeah,
about what works,
yeah.
what doesn't work. And I think it's worthwhile
Yeah.
trying different formats. So
Yeah. 100%.
Definitely appreciate that.
100%.
Great.
Um,
Well, thanks to everyone who helped host that workshop. It was really nice to have such a collaborative event. I appreciated it a lot.
yeah, it was
It
fun.
was great.
It was
Yeah.
fun.
I learned a lot too.
Sophie, the Mayor's Monarch Pledge action items.
Yes, so did you add that to the agenda or did I add that?
I think you might have added that to the agenda, yeah.
I don't really have any updates on it. I'm happy to read out the specific, I have the action items here if you guys, you know.
Yeah.
Read them into the minutes.
Sure. So, I selected 4. I think we had to commit to 3, but there was a 4th that made sense. So the first one is issue a proclamation to raise awareness about the decline of the monarch butterfly and the species need for habitat. This proclamation must incorporate a focus on monarch conservation. So that can maybe, you know, come out around the time that we're planning on launching the garden or promoting it or something like that. The second one is launch or maintain a public communication effort to encourage residents to plant monarch gardens at their homes or in their neighborhoods. The third one, and I can send this out so that you guys can just like copy and paste it too. The third one is to plant or maintain a monarch and pollinator friendly demonstration garden at City Hall or another prominent or culturally significant community location. And the fourth is to display educational signage at monarch gardens and pollinator habitat. So that kind of goes in line with the third one. And we can modify this at any point. If you guys wanted to check out some of the other action items, we can commit and uncommit to anything throughout the year. So it's not, it's very loose. But for now, this is what we're working with, and I think they all kind of relate to each other. So
And it's consistent with everything that we've.
exactly,
Yeah,
yeah,
we can
right.
use-
We're already doing it.
When
Well,
we,
yes, thank you.
when we get around, like either we include the garden that we're doing with the Girl Scouts as the garden, or when we get around to doing the pollinator action plan
Right.
garden, there's nothing, we should just, you know,
Totally.
go through both.
Yeah, and I think at the end of the year, I have to provide them with a update on what was done. So if we did more than we've, you know, pledged to, great. It gets put on the update page. So that's all I have for that.
Question, do we think that it's possible that like Pascalina could find us like an artist or somebody who might be able to produce locally made or designed signs for something like that? I've had one I've wanted to put in the front of my yard, which is only somewhat related, but but I'd love to find somebody that does sign making, you know, we do sign making for,
For sure.
you know, artist, but not exorbitant artist prices.
I can look into that. So we were also potentially chatting about the Girl Scouts designing the signage.
Oh,
because
yeah.
They love art.
Yeah.
So kind of making it so that they, you know, design it as part of their service hours. It could be,
That
you
would
know.
work.
yeah.
And another option, not to disagree with anything that's been said, but again, around Mudder's Field, the Scomic Trust had some, I thought, fairly effective
there's that
signage
is-
that was consistent with other things I have seen. In
Oh,
others.
okay, great. Yeah.
And just because imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, maybe we could find a way for a friendly price to copy it.
Mhm.
Just,
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
you know, and their signs are like 2 feet by 3
Yep.
feet, you know, solid.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
and it looked good.
Totally. Yeah, we have a lot of options for that. So.
Great. Shall we wrap back around? Hello?
Hi, I'm so sorry I'm late. This is what happens when you try to do 2 things at the same time.
Oh, yeah.
And get lost in this rather large. building. I've been all the way to the top.
Oh, no.
So Connie, would you like to introduce?
Well, actually, she might want to introduce herself. I just, Counselor Smith reached out to me and just said, is it possible for, Kathy Harrington? Harrison, sorry.
Yes,
she was,
that's okay.
It's on the
to,
agenda wrong too, so we'll get that.
yeah, so that's, so anyway, so Alex, I'll just turn it over to you.
Well, if you
to-
keep the wrong name in case. I said, thank you. So Connie and I know, I'm Catherine Harrison, and we have met a couple of times. We got talking about food resiliency. And
Counselor Smith.
yes, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And
Like
I, before we moved to Cummington, my husband and I ran Barefoot Farm, And I've written a couple of books on family preparedness, but it was also pulled in with community preparedness, what that's all about. So the thought we had is that we'd love to do a demonstration garden. I have a community garden spot that I'm getting a little old to keep it up any longer, to be honest. And so I offered that. I paid the fee, and I've actually just paid for the compost for it. And we'd love to set it up as a demonstration plot where we could show what is possible on a 20 by 20 lot. And also some different, like I'd love to do some hugelkultur. I'd love to do a keyhole garden. Right now we're trying to make connections, and the bees seemed like a good place to start. Ultimately, what we'd love to be able to do, Connie and I are both avid seed savers and have pretty big collections. And I run the seed library over at Williston Library.
Tamara Smith.
Tamara Smith. I'm going to say this over and over because I just got out of it.
Yeah, I just want to make sure it's
Okay, with Tamara. And we would love to be able to expand this to eventually offer people who are interested in backyard gardens. And I mean something as small as this, it can be a pot, and being able to offer seeds and expertise and tools. And just, we'd love to do some signage so we could have a cute little, we don't even have a name yet. We're debating, we have a couple we've been thinking about. So this was our opportunity to make a connection with another group that's doing important work involved with agriculture and sustainability and resilience. And
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, that certainly all sounds great. I don't think I have any, obviously no deep thought. I don't, no deep thoughts at the moment.
So more than anything, what we're trying to do is connect with other people. And you never know who is going to step up. I'm 72, my husband's almost 80, and the days of us, that's the reason we sold the farm, is it was getting just too hard. Ideally we'll have some younger people who will say, I'll help you run that demonstration garden. I can come over and dig and plant and maintain. I don't mind pulling the weeds. And the thought then too is that we could donate that food, that was not,
Absolutely.
for us, but that we could donate to the community center and make a deal out of it. There's another gentleman, I don't know his name, and I don't know if you've run into him, who's planning to do a community potluck, and I think he's calling himself Feast Easthampton, maybe.
Yeah, I've heard of this.
And we could have things that we donated to a Feast Northampton.
I've heard about it, but I'm not sure who it is. I've heard a couple of names thrown around.
And I'd certainly like to include some pollinators into the community garden spot.
Yeah, I mean, it would be really curious to see what we could find for like native plants that also provide food or whatever. So,
Yes, yeah.
Lots of fun there. Well, fitting a chestnut might be interesting.
Grass.
Yeah.
Lots of good yields. Could also be a really interesting educational opportunity to think about wild bees and how effective they are as
Yes,
compared to
indeed. I've been taking pictures of my mason bees already because they just exploded in just the past 2 days. Crazy number of mason bees. And we're hoping to work with the high school. One of the things that happens with all the school gardens is they get them started and then everybody leaves.
Yeah.
And then the gardens are abandoned.
Yeah.
And that seems unfortunate. It seems like we should be able to keep those gardens going and maybe offer that food to the community too. So obviously I'm not asking for anything specific. I'm making connections.
Right, yeah,
now.
of course.
Yeah.
And I think, some of the things that we could do, like as you're getting going, is like we can absolutely like reference you guys in our newsletters that we're sending out, because we have, we have what, like how many people do we have on the list?
Almost 100.
Yeah, we have almost 100 people on the list these days, and hopefully that'll continue to expand as we offer more programming. So that absolutely, we are still also trying to figure out how to build like a volunteer base, and obviously that sort of stuff would all be things that we could work in together, and vice versa. Like, if you guys are building your own volunteer group or whatever, then we can send them towards us when we're doing some stuff.
Yeah, that'd be great.
So yeah, I think it'd be a great opportunity to work together.
I would also like to add too, so I work for the city. I'm the sustainability coordinator. So I rip it full time. I'm here all the time and love to add things to my personal agenda. So I'd love to grab your contact information and maybe we can chat too, because the city just started the Easthampton Climate Outreach Initiative today. So I'm looking for events and things to put on the calendar all the time. So love to connect. Yeah.
Yes, I literally walked out with my things and not another thing. So if someone could give me a scrap of paper, I will write down the address.
I'll grab it, Debbie.
Yeah, I got a whole bunch of,
Oh, perfect.
if you're not concerned with neatness.
Particularly, thank you so much.
It reminds me, were you able to ask, Greg about the plot of land between the sidewalk and the street, if we can use those for?
I did ask him that. Did I forget to email you back? I think I asked him like right after our meeting and he told me that it's technically owned by the city, but that they don't patrol it and that they don't really monitor what's going on unless it becomes like an obstruction to the road. So he was advising more towards if you wanted to throw down some clover or some like, sort of low plants. He wasn't too keen on like something that would potentially obstruct the view to the road, like a plant. Thank you so much. Like you had mentioned like a box.
Yeah, low box. But because that's what I was thinking about, was like something like this.
Thank you so much. Nice to meet you.
Like a recession garden, right? Where
Yep.
it's just like you've just got whatever vegetable, right? That's accessible and things like that. So nothing that's like.
Sure. Okay. And I can get a more specific answer. He just told me that it can't obstruct the street, but it is technically city owned. They just don't really care what residents do with it.
Right.
So as long as it doesn't get out of control.
Right.
So
'Cause that's what I'd like to do.
Yes,
It's like, can we do something that's like a model, right? Of like.
Yeah. I can definitely look into it further. So if we want to provide that information to people.
Or even a pollinator garden or, whatever, right? Like, most of those, that space because, people are spending a lot of time with their lawn that I'm like, maybe we can do something else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. Do people have stops at 7 or are we good to go a little bit longer? I'm going a little bit longer. Okay. Yeah. We only have 2 more things and then I want.
Absolutely. Thank you guys so
Yeah,
much for having me.
I kind of thought I should probably tell you guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Nice to meet you guys.
Okay, Xerxes page hosting.
I did not. I sent an email, yeah.
Okay.
I'm trying to, thank you. I'm trying to remember.
That's for sure.
Thank you, Robert.
Probably.
Do you want me to read out your email? This is from March 23rd.
Please, I don't have my computer on it.
Hi, Sean and Jenny. I've been doing a little research into potential website options. As far as I can tell, we cannot create a website through Xerxes, but we can at least update our page with our Facebook link and eventually our website.
That's right.
And then you dug up the Bee City link that's
Yes.
currently just under Owen Zert's name rather than Easthampton or Bees. You also shared a couple of other towns and cities on the Xerxes Bee City site, including in Asheville, North Carolina example. Their website looks like a Bee City website, but I believe they just created a website to look that way. So you showed links for Asheville. And
That was really
that
nice.
was awesome. I can open that up and.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, thank you for refreshing my memory.
Yeah.
So
What date was that? Sorry, what date was that sent? March 23rd. It was not sent to the whole group. It was just to Sean and me. You're good.
I was like, oh my
No.
God.
So yeah, they have this like fully fleshed out
Wow.
website that's like, got tons of information and branding. Like clearly they have resources to dedicate to this. This is a little precarious with one hand, but all sorts of good stuff. Wow, thank you. Events, fundraising,
It was just such an
lots of
eye-catching.
stuff. Thank you.
Yeah.
Information
So,
about particular
the-
butterflies.
We can at least put links to whatever we may have. So we can put links to like our Facebook page.
Sure.
As far as on the B City site.
Okay.
There really wasn't much for updating. I think maybe we can add a picture. But it was mostly people creating their own. I did see, was it South Hadley that
Yes.
I listed there? So it was an interesting
It's a Civic Plus website. I don't know if
yeah,
it's-
so they had a page through their town website that talks about what they're doing. I don't think they necessarily have like a committee like we do, but at least they're including all of their events that they have throughout the city, but also like really great resources, like a lot of Massachusetts resources, native plant, things like that, links. And so I didn't know if we had the capability here in Easthampton to do something like that.
So we already have a page on the committee. On
Yeah.
the Civics Plus website. Which is, I believe we're also a Civics Plus,
Mhm.
user, whatever.
Cause that would be
So-
awesome if we could just
Yeah, and
have it
any-
attached to the actual Easthampton page
Yeah.
and then have all our
We-
resources and
We
things on
could
there.
probably get another one that's like not as committee specific if you wanted to. And then it's a little bit like design wise, it's a little bit we just kind of submit like a Word document or a Google Doc to the IT department.
Okay.
Kind of like copy paste it into Civics Plus, which doesn't always work out perfectly, but they're willing to do more updates for us. I have, like, they didn't want to let us edit it directly. They might let Sophie edit
I
it
know.
directly.
I have full access, so I
I can change things if need be.
So yeah, and in general, I would say if you see something on our website, or if we decide, or if we want to like do a specific Xerxes one or whatever, we can go ahead and do that. Although I personally think that just the committee page is probably good enough.
I think that would be
Expand on
perfect
it.
because then I think as people are going there to find out things that are happening in the city and then find our page that way, I think we're more apt to get more traffic if it's connected to the actual Easthampton page than we are to just have a website. Even if it was through Xerxes, I still feel like we would probably get way more traffic through the actual Easthampton site.
Mhm.
And then I think of things like Ellie, the QR code that she had with all of the resources, we can just have a whole, like the South Hadley page does, a whole resource section where, we just, every time we're finding a great link of like, here's an example of a really easy pollinator update you can make to your yard. Here's an article on why if you can leave a little pile of leaves in your yard, this is why it's important. Even just little changes and things that we can find online. I think that's a fantastic idea to just have a great resource page that is just connected right to the city page.
Yeah.
And there's some really good examples out there of like, well, how did they do it? And what are they including in their links and resources and photos? And, even if we can't post photos to the site, we could always do like a Google Drive or something where you click on it and it has some great photo examples.
Or you could link to a presentation.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think the intent there, like when we just got that page set up, like a year ago. So I think at this point, we're just like, we just want to have a couple basic things on it, but the intent is like absolutely to keep fleshing it out.
Yeah, at least one of the restrictions we had originally was they didn't really want us to build a tree out under it. So it was
Yeah.
like a single page, that's basically it for us. And I think it sounds like that's still true. So we can have like sections that have like resource links and stuff, but it becomes like one big long page, which is good, but from like a usability standpoint and from what people are actually going to look at, most folks aren't going to make it past the first page or scroll. So if we put a bunch of resources down at the bottom, a lot of folks aren't going to see that necessarily.
I wonder if it's possible to do something like, this might be what you're saying as far as building out, but say if under resources, it's like, you know, the heading is like gardens, and if you click there, could it then take you to a list of other things, or no, it just has to be one page?
The original, I mean, again, somebody may tell me differently, there may be new rules, we can talk to IT, but it was one page
Just that one page.
originally.
Okay.
I actually didn't hear about that. I nodded when you
It's
said that
long.
because that's what I was just thinking is like you get the one page
Right.
and then there's not typically like,
I wonder if we could send the South Hadley example to IT and or whoever handles things like that and ask them, could we do something like this?
Yeah.
I mean, was
I'm
their
happy to
page
talk
as
to them,
zippy as
so.
the?
This is our page, which is pretty tightly focused on the committee. So it's got kind of our mandate, a little bit of rationale, our goals, and how we plan to achieve them. A short resource section.
It should have just been updated.
Yes, that looks really good, actually. And I see that our newsletter is now on there, which I didn't realize
That's
that
great.
we had moved ahead to that stage of development already. So, you know, that's
So it's
something.
getting there.
Yeah.
do we think it would make more sense? And I can play around with the format of it a little bit to like almost put relevant things up at the top so that people might not have to scroll as
Like the newest.
yeah,
kind
like
of
if there's an event at the
information.
top or if there's a specific kind of.
I think that's a really smart
Yeah.
idea, just because I was trained when writing things for people who are busy. Put the important stuff.
Yeah.
Right,
up in front
right
and drag
there,
it
yeah,
out.
yeah, and that's what I've been doing. I've been messing around with the eco page a lot. I don't think anyone has ever looked at it, but every time
Right,
there's
yeah.
now I have like a next event, it's like the first thing you
Yeah,
see,
no,
so
no,
that
I-
people can just go quickly onto it, so.
I think you're right on with that.
Yeah.
If there's
Yeah.
stuff that we wanna like put up in the front and it can change, cause again, I should have full access. to
Okay,
this edit
that's
whenever.
amazing. So, thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I am not sure I agree with, we'll get more traffic through the Easthampton webpage, so I wouldn't mind continuing to look at, I think I responded to you guys with some options for how we could potentially do like a free or mostly free website. So, I'm not good at design, but I can get everything else kind of working. So if folks decide they want to like look at that or play with that, I would be happy to do that with folks. Or if you wanted to like learn how to do this, because it's all for like I can give you options that are like free resources. So if you have something for other things that you wanted to build out, I could show you some options for doing that. The freeways aren't necessarily as like user friendly in terms of like everybody logging, like it's not going to be a WordPress site unless it's like, well, I mean, we could do easthamptonbees.wordpress.com or whatever. Probably work out fine. And that might be free or it might be like $5 a month or whatever. So there are options if we decide to do more of a website. I think we probably should at some point, although not so much that I'm wanting to dive in and do it myself and then have other people come in behind me. So when other folks are ready to do that, then let me know and we can do that.
I'm happy to, I have 3 weeks left of school and then I will have the summer off. So, if you don't have the time to do it or want to pass that off, I'm happy to play around. I have, I handle my husband's website and my own photography website.
Oh, yeah.
So
You'll have all the stuff that I don't have.
pretty.
I do not make things pretty. That's not my domain.
So if we can, that's something that we can
Yeah, we
hold
should.
off on, then I'm happy to
Yeah.
check it out and
It's
see
just-
what I can find.
We'll tell you what, when you are free from school and you're ready, just reach out and we will get together and
Perfect.
have a coffee and I'll show you some options there's one that I particularly think would be easier, better to use. We'd still have to, like, ideally, we probably still want to buy a domain name. Which
Yes.
costs like $40 or something like that, but that I'll probably would just be willing to foot for us, at least for now. I do still need to get back into the Bees committee webpage or committee email, just so that we still have that. I don't like the way that worked out, but I should still get back into it, unfortunately. So just let me know.
Yeah, that sounds great. Because you're right, it does make a difference when you have like a real fun.
And I think, even on like, so Jamie and potentially other folks still have Facebook access, but like,
Yeah.
being able to set it up so that, like we write an article, we put it on our website and then we just like blast that link via Facebook
Yes.
or whatever.
Yeah.
I think it
Yep.
works out nicely and then we get traffic that way.
Perfect. Okay.
And real quick, one last quick thing, which I don't think we're going to talk through too much. I just want to mention that invasive plants are starting to come out. So I haven't seen black swallowwort yet, and since Councillor Jadzek, I don't know why I want to say Jadzek. Okay, I don't know why I want to say that J with a Y. Councillor Jadzek, I'm sort of like personally thinking about, like, she mentioned that she has a public space, Easthampton owned space, someplace in her neighborhood where they have like a massive black swallowwort thing that's a neighborhood problem. So since we can't do the Manham this year, I was kind of thinking that that would be our first invasive removal target. And then from there, maybe we could work on maybe even saying, like, maybe do we want to think about like trying to do, but I haven't seen black swallowwort yet. So I was basically just going to like reach out to her as soon as I start seeing black swallowwort at a size that would be good enough. And then we can do more organization from there. Which is essentially the entirety of what I had for the invasive removal party starting. I do think, and if anybody, maybe we should just do a subcommittee and like present an idea about this to actually get going on it for the next time. And if folks are amenable to that, then maybe I'll try and get that done. I would like to try and set up the pay it forward invasive removal native planting like parties that some people that I keep talking about, and folks seem like they're kind of excited about the idea. And I did have an idea while we were at the garden planning party to basically like figure out how to do the first one, which would be a raffle. Like, you know, we do the first, you know, everybody puts their names in, you know, says they're willing to show up to the first party. We raffle off whose house we're actually going to go to and try and court. And then like, you know, we'll have to do like some coordination with them and make sure that we can like make the coordination work and make sure we have any volunteers that would be showing up. But yeah, so I'm a little bit worried about how we kick off the first one. But then after that, to me, it's sort of like, if you show up to do an invasive removal / native planting at somebody else's house, your name gets dropped in the bucket for the next time we do one. And then we, you know, draw it or put it on a list or whatever and go through it that way.
Would you consider making that a part of eco?
Yeah, if we actually get forward going on it.
I'm just
then
saying, like
absolutely.
if we want to just blast it out to the public and make it like who wants to put their name in, I think that could be a way just to kind of kick off.
So,
And I'm happy to start kind of working on.
Yeah, I mean,
logistics of that.
the logistics get a little bit interesting, and I'm not entirely sure because you need to pick a time where the volunteers are able to show up, and you also need to pick a time that gives the person whose place you're going to, especially if they want native plantings. I'm not providing them planting, you know, providing them with plants. So like there's the, you know, if they want things planted, it's kind of on them to make sure they procure the plants before you show up. So there's some administrative stuff that has to go with that. But tell you what, I just want to brainstorm about it. So like, and if you want to also put it on the eco, I'll try and like throw out a basic idea plan, and then if we can come up with something before our next bees committee meeting, then we can present it to bees and we can try and just like say like, yes, no, that's what we're going to do as part of bees for this, and to make sure people don't have concerns. I know in the past we've had some concerns about like doing too much for individuals or businesses or whatever. So, but I think as long as it's part of this like raffle potluck sort of thing, then
so it always happens on private property.
It doesn't have to.
Okay, because I could probably find a way to make it, and if we want to do it on public land, it might just be a little bit easier in terms of like you can show up and volunteer as opposed to having to coordinate your own home.
Which is what we do with the invasive removal parties. Those are on public land. This was an idea to sort of like give people the ability to work. You know, like a lot of people have like come to us when they have these things. They're like, I want to get started on this, but my backyard is like nothing but like, you know, an acre of Japanese knotweed or whatever like that. And they're just like feel overwhelmed by it. And so like, I'm just trying to figure out ways that we can help people like be neighborly and get themselves into a gift stall. This is sort of modeled on places like in Somerville, they had actual driveway removal parties. So somebody would like literally get a dumpster and then folks would show up with sledgehammers and take out all the asphalt of the driveway so that they can put down pavers or whatever, because impermeable surfaces are not great. And it was really successful, and they did like you know, a couple a month or whatever, and they'd have like 15 or 20 people show up to every single one, and then somehow they got on their list to come to their house to remove the driveway or whatever. And obviously, swinging sledgehammers is fun.
Yeah, so much fun.
So, same thing with digging out black swan.
Right.
Or you get one of those big nodules, and you're just like, yes. So yeah, so that's sort of where I'm coming from with this. Is it,
Cool.
just as a way to sort of kickstart people and help them,
For sure.
you know, and also learn, you know, same thing with the public spaces. It's a learning opportunity for figuring out how you want to do your own stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll try and work with you. We'll try and get that so that we can come up with a pitchable plan by next time. And just as an FYI, as soon as I see Black Swallow Ward, I'm going to start trying to coordinate with Councillor Jazek to set up a party on that public space she mentioned at her place. Also, something we should probably be broadcasting is if anybody else, council members, anybody has public spaces that they'd like us to go do invasive removals on. So again, since we don't have them at hand, I think just like throwing it out there to people that want to see some space improved. There are limitations. We can't do stuff that's too near water without going through something, blah, blah, blah. It's a big deal that Cassie used to tell us about, where we can't do
The
stuff
Wetlands
within-
Protection Act buffers.
Yeah, Wetlands
Right.
Protection Act buffers, so we have to make sure it's not within those, which also eliminates large sections of where I'd want to do it in, say, Nunavut. But we probably should throw it out on the newsletter that, like, if folks have a suggestion, we'd be happy to, and you know, and you can promise us that you, at least the suggester, will show up to help us. Then we'll come to some like invasive removal for frenzy.
And Sophie, Ava can give us good guidance on
I'm sure she
where
will.
we would have free
Okay,
reign.
awesome.
And Ava is very on top of
Yeah.
things.
She's great. Okay, cool. So we can loop her into that discussion too. I'm sure she'd be happy to help out.
Okay, that is the agenda. Does anybody else have anything else that they want to go through that was not reasonably anticipated?
I have one super quick thing. We just officially got designated as a climate leader community.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
I sent that out to the committee earlier. Just I think I emailed it to you all.
I've started kind of looking into some grant opportunities that are now available to us. I don't think any of them are particularly bees related, but just something to celebrate, I guess.
Nice, that's great.
Yeah, we're part of the first group in the Commonwealth to do that. I mean, Cassie's name was just invoked a minute ago, so I emailed it to her personal email to let her know that had happened as well, and sent her congratulations. But she deserves the lion's share of the thanks for pushing that through and getting us in there so early. There's going to be, they've asked, not to make a big announcement about it or to do any media related things until end of next week when they're planning an announcement. There's going to be some sort of event, TBD. The mayor did mention that she would like members of relevant committees and things to be there if at all possible, plus DPW and Sophie and folks. So there's going to be a big to-do about it. I don't know exactly what the shape or form of that will be, but very exciting.
Okay, cool, great, thank you. Yeah. Any other last closing thoughts? Any motions to adjourn?
Next date.
Oh, next date.
Sorry.
States.
Did we put a few on the calendar?
We
can't
did not,
remember.
yeah.
Okay.
I don't think Tuesdays are actually not great for me, although I can make it work. Although if I'm gonna make it work, 6:30 would be better. So if we want to look at, if we want to do 1 month from now, that would be the 20th, May the 20th. There is a planning board, a cultural committee, a finance committee, and a council on aging.
Excuse me.
I don't know if that's a conflict for anybody, and it looks like this conference room, cultural council is in this conference room on that date at 5:30, and I don't know how long their meeting lasts.
On the 20th, I have a finance meeting
Okay, yep.
for 2 hours.
20th probably isn't gonna work. Do we want to think about Thursdays or offset by a week?
Either of those two options.
Either of
I think
those
work for
two
me.
options work okay.
Thursday be better for me. The 27th I know will be bad for me.
So
Thursday, the 22nd.
I'm good for the 22nd.
Yeah, I can do that too.
I have some travel that week that's not totally nailed down, so I'm like a tentative yes.
Okay.
I
Okay.
might not be back by like 6 p.m. potentially. I'm not sure if I'm coming back from the Cape on Wednesday or Thursday that week, so.
Okay. Right. I think we'll go ahead and mark it for that and then cross our fingers and maybe you can,
And I can try to plan around that now that I know.
and you can also try to promote in.
I'll be driving. I'm
Yeah.
not available, so.
Drive with your, obviously drive while you're in the meeting. Yeah.
You can drive and take. And that's 6, not 6:30.
Yes.
Okay,
So
perfect.
Thursday,
I can certainly, if you want to pass it on to me, so that would be.
I think I'm coming back Wednesday, but I'm just
Okay, well, be in touch.
Yes.
Please.
and that would be at 6 on May 27th. Second.
22nd.
let me just go ahead and send a message to agendas requesting it while I'm thinking about it. Oh, no, I don't have to do that
Good,
later.
good.
Okay, so let me send a text myself to remember to do that because I'm not logging into that email right now.
Oh, do you need me to reserve the room? Is that what
No,
I
no,
just zoned out for a
no,
second?
no. I will reserve the room. I just
Okay,
don't have that email up right now. So
because I can do it right now, but I don't know if there's something that you have specifically.
just send a message to agenda center requesting the room for a peace committee for that date and time.
And then will you need to get a new meet link as well for that date?
It's been, I don't think so. I think they just attach it. As long as it's as long as it's the same room, I think it works.
Okay.
But I'll try and remember to double check.
Yeah, I'm never sure. I always like for my other committee, I always just like send technology a thing with like they send me a new link every 3 months or something like that. But
Gotcha. Yeah, it's been unclear to me when we need a new link, but I don't.
yeah,
I think they just drag the meeting time slot around or something.
okay. Obviously worked today, so
Which is the same one that we were using when it was a Thursday, and I didn't make any changes. So,
okay. Good to know.
okay. Now, we want
So seconded.
So seconded. All in favor? Yay.
Hey.
This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.